If you ask why the 1979 Iran hostage crisis happened, the most common answer you'll hear is simple. A group of religious radicals took over the government because they despised Western society. But that explanation relies on a comforting assumption. It asks us to believe that foreign hostility springs up out of nowhere, completely disconnected from the historical timeline. The anger directed at the United States during that era did not originate from a sudden, irrational hatred of our way of life. It was a direct retaliation against decades of American foreign policy. To find the actual catalyst for the 1979 crisis, we have to rewind the clock exactly 26 years. When a nation ignores its own history, the eventual blowback almost always looks like an unprovoked attack. It is the early 1950s in Iran. The country is led by Mossadegh, a democratically elected prime minister. At the time, British Petroleum was extracting massive amounts of oil from beneath Iranian soil. Yet, despite the immense wealth flowing out of the ground, the people living on top of it were receiving pennies on the dollar for their own natural resources. This graphic shows the exact economic friction of the era: a massive pipeline of oil leaving the country, and a tiny fraction of compensation coming back. To address this, Mossadegh made a standard legal request. He wanted to audit the company's books to ensure Iran was being paid fairly. The corporation refused. They declared that a sovereign nation had no right to audit their corporate records. Mossadegh's request was a basic assertion of national sovereignty over corporate extraction. This refusal quickly escalated, drawing in the United States. At the State Department, Secretary John Foster Dulles took charge of the American response. The covert execution of that response was handed over to his brother, Allen Dulles, who was running the CIA. The two brothers made a calculation based entirely on imperial entitlement. They decided that the oil beneath Iran belonged to Western corporate interests, not to the Iranians themselves. So the United States orchestrated a coup. We overthrew the democratically elected leader of Iran, who eventually died in prison. In his place, we installed a replacement, the Shah. He was an unnatural monarch, forced upon the population specifically to protect Western oil access. For the next 26 years, the Shah maintained his grip on power through brutal repression, silencing any opposition to his illegitimate rule. Which brings us directly back to 1979. The hostage crisis was the inevitable detonation of over 2 decades of US-sponsored trauma. When you look at the actual historical record, the idea that the captors simply hated American freedoms instantly falls apart. Framing foreign anger as a hatred of our lifestyle is a highly effective defense mechanism. It shields the public from acknowledging the grim reality of regime change. And this blindness to cause and effect is a recurring theme. It exposes an arrogance that runs deeply through American foreign policy. You can see this same contradiction today. The United States aggressively polices the global proliferation of nuclear weapons, positioning itself as the ultimate moral authority on the world stage. Yet we maintain this high ground while remaining the only country on Earth to have ever actually dropped a nuclear bomb on another nation. A superpower cannot effectively navigate or lead the modern world while suffering from deliberate historical amnesia regarding its own actions. As long as we pretend our foreign policy decisions exist in a vacuum, we will always be caught entirely off guard by the devastating blowback we helped to build.